Record. I'd like to call this meeting of the Cambria Community Services District, and would like to have you all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. There, I'm still hearing that. I pledge allegiance to the flag, the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Thank you. Okay, we do have a quorum. All 5 board members are here, and so we can go ahead and go with everyone present. I have a question for Mr. Carmel. I'd like to make an announcement. Would that be okay?
Just a general announcement?
Yeah,
Yep.
I don't have a mic.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so I would like to congratulate the Cambria Community Services District on their earning the District of its Distinction Silver level for the first time ever in 2025. And there's a very nice press release that you all probably will have a chance to read. So I'm not going to read it, but what I am going to say is that this is a really prestigious award, and you all work so hard to make this happen. And so do you as directors for the district. So thank you so much. This silver level distinction is a silver level accreditation by the Special District Leadership Foundation for its sound fiscal management policies and practices in district operations. The staff have been working very hard to meet the requirements for this certificate. In 2001, in 2021 and 2024, we were awarded the Transparency Certificate of Excellence, but this is one step higher. And so I just want to congratulate all of you. Thank you. Hey.
Can I make a comment, President?
Yes, you may.
President Scott? My main concern is earning this award today.
And if we get to a point where we are not speaking loud enough, will you please let us know? Okay. Okay. If you want to move your chairs up closer, that would be okay. Okay. All right. So now we are on agenda item number 2. This is public comment on agenda items. We have a request to have 2 of these slips read before anybody else reads theirs or speaks to us. So I'm going to go ahead and ask these people to come up. The first one is Julie Amadei. Hey, I'm so sorry because I would like to applaud you too. But that kind of stuff is going to really be problematic for the recording. Yeah. So no, laughing or speaking out or, that'd be good. Yeah. So please just adhere to that, but this is a flaw.
President Scott,
Yes.
you'll really have to speak up at the podium to hit that mic.
Okay, you'll have to
Can we bring
really.
the podium forward
Sure.
to the table?
That okay? Yeah.
I've got a pretty loud voice, so sorry. All right. Thank you. Well, you'll never know how you land if you never jump. Who would have known that the sport of skateboarding would teach us and teach me so much over the last 5 years? Jump, we did. Skate Cambria launched into action in March of 2000 with one goal in mind: to return a much-needed community space to our kids. The Main Street location was where many memories were made, and the idea of not having a skate park, well, that made no sense. So here we are. The team at Skate Cambria would like to thank the CCSD board, the staff, for their dedication to the project. Just like skateboarding, there's been some ups and some downs, but we are confident we can find an equitable way forward to the next steps and ultimately out to bid. I would personally like to share the inspiration that has been carried with me throughout in my hand. You can see that. This should be. Wow. This was given to me when I was a CUSD board member by the kids at the Cambria Grammar School. And every meeting I go into, it's in my pocket. We're confident that we can work together and we can get this done. For all of those that are here today, thank you for taking time to express your support. So much dedication has come from countless hours put in by volunteers, written and spoken comments, attending meetings. You are an inspiration. Skate Cambria has raised upwards of $500,000 over the last 5 years in cash donations, pledges, and grant assistance. These donations have come from as far away as Canada, piggy banks, lemonade stands, residents, tourists, industry, corporate sponsors, and anonymous out of our area supporters. We would not have been able to be here today without the dedication also of our fiscal agent, Cambria Community Council. The relationship that we share has been instrumental and a true testament of finding creative solutions. You see, skateboarding is not just about skating. It is giving people life skills and hope for the future. We got this, Cambria. Let's show the kids that their voices are being heard and there is reward in hard work. We encourage you to also drop in this Sunday at Park Collective from 1 to 4, where all the proceeds of the event will be going to the park. Shout out to our 12 hospitality partners for making it happen. Let's cap the gap. You see, with skateboarding, we only roll forward. And this is with gratitude. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay. The next person is Steve Niffen.
So everybody has something to say, I'll make it short. Everybody dies. And on their epitaph, no one writes prudent. No one writes prudent. Prudent is an excuse. Thank you, not an attribute.
Thank you, Mr. Niffen. Hey. I was wondering, Shani, did you need to do this to leave? Okay, Shani, could you please come up? Oh.
Yeah,
Speak as loud as you can.
okay, well, I wasn't aware I was speaking today, but I'm happy to be here in support of the skate park. It's a very needed, project for our kids in our community it has been for a long, long time since my kids were little. And there's the future of this village. We have a lot of kids more coming up and they need the space. It's really a wonderful to see so many people of this community coming together to support this project. I'm really proud of the community for doing this. And I'm very happy to do what I can to bring this project to fruition. So I really hope that the CCSD, the council and the CCSD will work with us to make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Jeff Wilson.
President Scott, members of the board, and staff, I'm Jeff Wilson, resident of Cambria for 7 years, and I'll try and speak up so everybody can hear.
I'm sorry?
Sounds good.
Sounds good? Okay, great. Okay, I'm gonna have to fly here because I got a fair amount to cover, 3 minutes. So I'm here in support of the skate park and to express my recommendation to the board on 3 aspects fundamentally. First, I want to clearly convey that my comments are intended to be positive, constructive, and collaborative in the community spirit, working together to see the skate park funded and completed as quickly as possible. That's it. That's my spirit. Okay, so first aspect, calculation of the baseline gap. I believe it is realistic and reasonable to throw out the high figure from Canon. It's an outlier, and given the very close figures of the other 3. So that will yield from those 3 an average baseline gap of 1,193,795. Second aspect, establishment of the contingency. The American Institute of Architects in 2023 recommended a 5 to 10% level of contingency for public works projects. Now, I realize this is a sticky one and probably subjective a bit, but I recommend the board establish a level between 10 and 15%. I think 20% overly punishes the project financially. With these calculations, the following is the math on the gap. So the baseline, no contingency, 1,193,795 minus cash on hand, as far as I know, 1,014,278 leaves a baseline gap of 179,515. At a 15% contingency on that of 26,927, total gap 206,442. Third aspect, the tricky one. Probably not popular here, but I urge the board to adopt a 50-50 split of the gap with Skate Cambria. An additional amount, half of that 206 of 103,221, assuming my numbers are right, maybe there's some different numbers, but I realize this is controversial, okay, but this is not crazy. And I'd like to cite a very recent example of a small seaside community in Carpinteria that was able to do this. In March of 2022, and some of you may be familiar with this, the city council was made aware at their March meeting of a large funding gap based on the one bid that they received. That evening, that very evening, the council made the decision to fund $700,000, coming from 1.1 million in general fund dollars and 617,000 in special reserve dollars to bridge the gap that very evening. A 30,000 square foot skate park facility was opened the following August of 2023. In addition, I'm perplexed by the allocation.
Mr. Wilson,
Am I done?
summary real quick.
Okay. I'm perplexed by the 1.2 million of capital against the budget for 2025-26 for the skate park. I don't get where that comes from. It seems to me that the more reasonable is 105,000 of the remaining balance of CCSD committed funds. So I don't know if that factors in the 600,000.
Thank you.
For the gap. Okay. I say clearly this can be done, and I really, really hope that you have the courage to do this.
Thank you so much. Okay, the next person is Diane Brooke.
Figured it out and I have to put on my down to business clothes. I feel like a mom coming back to go, okay, what's going on? Diane Brooke, 44-year resident, the originator of the skate park where it is now. And I mentioned it last time, and I'll remind you again that we used a lot of licensed contractor volunteer hours. So I have questions, I guess. It's like, I don't understand why we're running electricity to it. I know we have to build a outhouse or bathroom because of the one grant. That's great. Solar tubes, solar lights. I don't know why it has to be power. So that seems like that's an expense to eliminate. We have, he said, so many, Wayne Gracie's a contractor. He already has volunteered his time. My neighbor's a concrete contractor and he's willing to put his time in, and so many other people. So I guess I'm just perplexed as to why there's still questions about this. Why there was money spent on a bid that didn't even provide work done it, you know, so I don't know why that happened. When we need every dollar that we want, so to get this project done. So I'm just questioning why we're not moving forward this, because obviously time is of the essence.
to get the grant fulfilled and to get the contractors which are willing to help get their time scheduled in. We all know that. So I am just hoping again that you guys will do something to kind of reclaim your place in this community, because the CCSD has long been a burr under a lot of saddles. And this would be a really good way to restore our faith in you and to show the kids, like someone had mentioned, that we really do care for them, that we have children, we acknowledge them and we appreciate them and here we are. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I would like to say that many of your questions are going to be answered when Mr. McElhaney does his presentation. And so we aren't going to be answering questions during public comment, but just pay attention at that point to get your questions answered. Thank you. The next person is Susan Mackey.
Old, so I don't know how loud I can get. My name's Susan Mackey. I've lived here for 13 years. I know that speed bumps and obstacles are a good thing for skate parks, but that is after you build them, not before. If the GM was indeed committed, like he said in red on the top of the webpage today, to building the skate park, I kind of think we would already be building it. I have questions I would like to see answered and hope that they will be. Why have there been so many estimates, including from a consultant, Monty Soto, the board hired? In a letter, that consultant even called his estimate a proposal and said, thank you for requesting it. Seems like you have already sent out requests for proposals, possibly improperly, and are calling them estimates and mock bids. I'm kind of confused. I saw that in the letter. I don't know. It just ended up confusing me. And I saw that in the agenda packet. This would give an undue advantage to those contractors in the bidding process, because it hasn't happened so far, right? The multiple MOUs are between the board and the CCC, correct? And why is the GM inserting himself into the process at this point? He's writing letters to the community, seeming to give his opinion on what the problems are with the skate park project. But the MOU does not involve him. So I'd like to know what his role is. I don't know why the fire chief, who does not live in Cambria, spoke at the meeting towards the end, giving his opinion that we should not spend money on a skate park, but we should spend money on a fire truck, when we can do both. And we have raised lots of money for lots of things in this community. If the average of the estimate is 1.2 million, why not just put out a real true request for proposal for that? Or if we have lower estimates for lower, this is the budget. The contingency needs to be built into the bid. I don't understand why all that discussion is even happening. Our GM likes to write letter after letter, trying to explain where he is coming from, when in reality, he just confuses the issue. I don't think it's appropriate for him to keep doing this. Again, as I said, the MOU is between the board and the CCC. I find lots of his letters inappropriate. It seems like he is trying to run the board, instead of the board running him.
Let's keep it to the skate park. And
Okay, that's the skate, that's, okay, specific to the skate, right. So what is his role in the skate park specifically? I would think it is to facilitate the project, as we know what that word means for sure, which is make it easier, not make it harder. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person is Margie Perez Sesser.
Can I give up my time first to Aaron, who's left his restaurant?
Yes, you may give it to Aaron. You got special.
My name's Aaron Lynn. I've lived here for about 48 years. I want to commend you guys for stepping up to a job that to me would be unfathomable to sit in any of your seats. So I'm not jealous of any of you for the pressures that you have. I think many of you have stepped into it inheriting a history of mismanagement of the funds, and that is a predicament on your hands. I do find that, however, to be no excuse for holding up what to me as a youngster would have been a dream, to have people working tirelessly to build something that can benefit the youth, that could keep the youth out of trouble in town. As I watched a lot of people who grew up side by side with me, who weren't as blessed to have a family business to keep him out of trouble. So I'd just like to speak to the fact that we need to follow through, but I think that we could consider other ways of managing things such as the Fiscalini Ranch. To call on the Friends of the Fiscalini Ranch, for instance, to step up more to the plate and manage their own ranch. And utilize potentially some of your funds to get some of the stuff done, like is this Vets Hall going to fall in before we take to working on it? Or are we gonna build the skate park, or just make up excuses as to why we cannot? Thank you.
Thank you so much.
My name is Margie Predecessor, and most of you know me. And my background is that I've worked in grant-funded programs since 1973, and I currently still do. I serve on the board of directors for CAPSLO, which has the biggest, is the biggest nonprofit in this county. And we have multiple grants. So what I want to do is address the issue about grants on what's happening right now as we speak on this day. Grant-funded programs are in jeopardy. And this is why, because so many of the federal grants are being demolished. What's happening is those federal grants are reaching out to the states. If the state sees you have a grant and you're not using it, they can take it back. So if we don't encumber those funds, if we don't go out to bid, then what's going to happen is they're going to look at us and say, oh, we gave you that money, but you're not using it. And if you say we're going to use it next year or whenever, that's not going to be good enough. That grant is going to go away and we stand a chance of losing it. That's my biggest worry. It should be something you're worried about too. The second thing I'm worried about is the high bid and also such a big contingency. One of the things our general manager said that he was worried about was like tariffs. Well, the thing about skate parks is that we're not going to be importing a lot of wood from Canada. We're going to be using concrete and rebar and those things that are locally sourced. I happen to have very many contractor friends, including my husband, who they all know this. So if you don't open up for bids that are for real bids, you're not going to get a real estimate of what it's going to cost. You're not legally obligated to have any of those bids. But the thing is, then you know what a real bid is. And these people in this community are awesome. And they will do a bidding war. And we know that this is going to happen because you have all the community here on this day during the middle of the week on this time. So this is an amazing community. I'm so proud of them. I also invited you all to our fundraiser and I'm hoping that you do come on Sunday. We are raising money like crazy and have from day one. And you know, these kids have given up birthday money. They panhandled on the streets for Pete's sakes. We need to make this happen for our community. And the thing about the MOU, we need to make sure that it's reasonable. And right now, contingency is not, that are being put out there is not reasonable. Using that high bid is not reasonable. And then the other thing is that our current project manager, Julie Amdiggs.
Thank you. Thank you. Your 3 minutes is up.
Okay, so then I have another, they give me a question to read. This is from Thad Markham. He's the owner of Artifacts Gallery. He's been here for 32 years and raising children, 4 children in this community. I'm writing to express my strong support for the development of skate park in the community of Cambria. I believe such a facility would be an outstanding addition to our town, providing a safe, healthy, and inclusive recreational space for youth and families alike. As you know, Cambria is home to many young people who would greatly benefit from having a dedicated space for skateboarding and similar activities. A skate park would promote physical activity and creativity and build community. I understand that any new development may raise valid concerns, and I would like to welcome the opportunity to engage in a thoughtful discussion with potential issues and how they might be addressed. If those concerns relate to safety, noise, location, or maintenance, I am confident that our community and collaboration, we can find effective remedies and solutions. I respectfully ask you to consider opening the dialogue with community members and skate park supporters to ensure that all voices are heard and that any concerns are met with transparency and cooperation. Your leadership is helpful in making this project a reality, and I agree. Thank you so much for your
Thank you.
leadership. Thank you.
Okay, so the next person is it Mark Ortiz? Over, okay.
Did I change my name?
No, but I'm really sorry that
Who cares?
okay.
My name is Mark Ober. I'm a resident of Cambria and visited here for 30 years. I think I'm a little bit of an odd bird here. Because I know Julie and she knows I've never been a big advocate for the skate park. However, I should not matter. I'm 1% versus 99%. I sat and listened to the board meeting last time, and all I could kind of hear was, what if, contingency, problem. So the first thing I want to say is, Mr. Wayne Gracie, who is a remarkable contractor, volunteered to help mitigate costs. And he's the type of guy who should be given 6 minutes, 9 minutes, 12 minutes, or whatever it is. No disrespect intended, but he was volunteering to save us money. And we should listen. Number two, contracts, when properly written, cover contingencies. They limit expenses. One of the things that was raised at that meeting was, well, what if they don't complete it? Any good contractor has completion insurance. That would save us, it would cover for millions. They have to have that in the state of California under contractor law. Two, the question was asked, what if the bids come in too high? And their answer, well, we don't have to proceed or whatever. No, you negotiate. Contractors have profit. Go to the contractor and find ways you can break it out. You could get concrete donated. There are a lot of things that can be done, as Mr. Gracie pointed out. And so eliminate first in this conversation, I'd recommend to the board, all of the what ifs and what other contingencies. I bet if you came up with 50 grand short, Skate Cambria would be out there knocking on doors and trying to get it for you. But why create impediments now? Why keep dragging it out? The matters of the fire department and the limiting funds and what would happen to the general fund, again, I find that bogus. Because if your contract is written properly, if the contractor is hired properly, there is no risk. And replacing the fire engine will not make me safer in town here. Sorry about that. But the other thing is, the question is, how much should Skate Cambria pay? And how much should they add in? And I know they'll come to the table. By the way, I can't be as brief as Mr. Niffen, who's so wise, but he is wise, sorry. But I think they owe very little. I think I would cap it at maximum $100,000. And I think CCSD has to dummy up some of the money, because quite frankly, if we went out to bids, these little side bids, someone back, I believe, October of last year, for 6 months, we have not acted. That's not the fault of Skate Cambria. If there was an inflationary matter that it relates to that, that wasn't in their responsibility. So
Thank you, Mr. Over, your 3 minutes is up.
I'll summarize. Let's go to the positive, lower costs by reaching out to people who have never been reached out to before. Robert ends with Mr. Gracie. And then let's get it done. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next person is Champ Clark. I want your hat.
My name is Champ. I'm 11 years old. I go to an academy for advanced learning, so that's why I'm able to be here today. I'm speaking on behalf of all my friends that couldn't be here today, obviously. And I'm speaking on behalf of them. We have worked very hard on raising money and are still doing it every week. Kids and adults are out there doing what we do, getting money for this project. And I hope we are able to fundraise the amount that is possible and hope we can get this sketch built.
Thank you. Okay, the next person is Chelsea Foster.
Hi, everyone. Congrats on your award. That's awesome. So there's been a lot of really wise things mentioned today. I mean, look at this turnout. This is amazing. And I know there were a lot more people that wanted to be here today. So this is just a little snippet in terms of how bright and conscientious this community is. You know that I'm very proud to have grown up here. Aaron pulled my heartstring a bit thinking about, you know, it's true. If we would have had something like this when we were young, it would have made a huge difference in so many of our fellow students' lives. Many who were lost, actually. So that was a really key point among many others. I'm here to just speak in the general that we have not forgotten what the core mission here is, and it's our kids. And that's all it's ever been. There's definitely been a lot of other narratives that have been thrown onto this project, unnecessarily so. I want to always make a point that we have to watch what forms we listen to when we're dealing with this project. Cambria has always been on the straight and narrow with how we communicate our gratitude and the partnership we have with all of you. All your time spent, everything we do. So nothing has ever changed in our mission. It's not going to change. We're not afraid to fundraise, but definitely we want to get a number that's fair. And we want to make sure you're represented well too, because you guys all work so hard. And we want the collaboration to reflect what this is really about, which is our kids. So, definitely want to say also about the fundraiser on Sunday. We've been so busy, even since the last couple meetings, working on raising more money. So as promised, we're going to keep moving forward. And we'll keep it high level as always, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. The next person is Dane Volz. Am I saying that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Hello, my
Hello?
name is Dane Bolts. I'm a senior at Coast Union High School and I'm currently missing economics right now. But that's okay because that's not what I'm here to talk about.
You want a note?
A note?
Should we give you a note?
That's all right, my mom called me out.
Okay.
I'm here on behalf of the kids in our town, the young generation, and the inspirational side of us. I'll just start off with time is money, but money is time. And it's been 5 years now, and time's a little bit different for us kids. It goes a little quicker, and I was a freshman when this started, and now I'm a senior, and I've got a whole lot of scars from tripping on pebbles out in the street, and not one of these are from a skate park, and I think that's kind of cool that I can show you that, but doesn't feel so good out there when you get them. So, yeah, I'm just here to say that it's been 5 years now, and I mean, there's kids in this town, in this high school that are be doing a lot better things than what they're doing now, and I think a lot of them would rather be skateboarding, and they just can't right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next person is, I think it's Shara Tatham. Is that right? Yes. I should know you.
Shara. Hi, guys. My name is Shara. You know me. I'm Cyrus Tatham's mom. Like I said before, he is working in Colorado in a remote area for 6 months. Otherwise, he would be here. And as Dane was just sharing about his scars, I was gonna tell you a quick story about Cyrus. 2 years ago, he was skating, probably where he shouldn't be skating, but that is one of the issues why we're here. He was skating behind JBJ's Pizza out there by Moonstone. You boys know what that's the spot where you guys skate the little ditch. And Cyrus actually broke his collarbone because he was skating out there, pebbles out there, you know, but what are we gonna do? Boys are gonna be boys, right? So I'm here to remind you where we started 5 years ago with a 14-year-old knocking on the CSD's door, asking why the skate park's being taken down. And here we are 5 years later with a great group of people helping us fundraise, helping us bring awareness to the community. And I remember back 5 years ago, when we started talking, and we kind of had this concept, we got a few little bids, and we're like, oh, we can build a cool skate park for $100,000. And guess what? We raised $100,000. And then as we started working more with the CCSD and the slow permitting and what was required, that number went up and up. And we brought to the table our fundraising efforts, and we kept pushing forward with that. So I just want to remind you of that. We do appreciate all the time that CCSD has put in. And just want to, say we've also brought our time and energy for Smith, writing grants for us with you guys and working collaborative. So again, reiterating what Chelsea said, we want to work with you guys and moving forward and get this project done together, build an awesome skate park that we can all be proud of. I did want to address the fire department and that money and just remind the public, sometimes there's misconceptions. They think that we are taking the money, which I think you've done really well in communicating, but not everybody reads that. So understanding that it is just in reserves. We're not asking to take money from the fire department to the skate park. It's just a reserve, a backup to reimburse the grant that comes through. So I just wanted to say, we're not asking to take that money from the fire department. I just want to reiterate that we want to work with you guys to build an awesome project or awesome skate park that we can all be proud of. My recommendations on where you guys are at now navigating is to throw out the high bid and average out that gap. Also looking at the itemization, throw out the landscaping, $35,000. We don't need landscaping. These kids don't need landscaping. Like, let's throw that off the bid. Let's add it in later at a later date, when we have more money or we have volunteers that want to come and plant. But let's throw that out.
Can you summarize real quick?
Yep, I'm 2 sentences. Figure out the gap that remains and let us raise that amount and put it out to bid at that point. Decide then on a contingency amount. I'm asking please for 10% and let us fundraise for that after we break ground. We are committed, and we have shown you over and over that we are committed to fundraising.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and the last slip that I have is David Lacy.
That's the last.
Oh.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
When I think of what you're facing, there's 3 words that come to mind as it relates to the process that we're in. That's time, value, and tension. And I'm always, in the corporate world, interested in value a lot, okay? So the process that we have that's been done so far is the numbers from all of the estimators are transparent. Our tables are very transparent. And whatever overage percentage you come up with, I can guarantee you that all your bidders have complete access to their information as well as others. Their bid's gonna be underneath that situation. So what makes more sense to me, and I know our council advises against it, is I would put the tension on the bidders. I wouldn't come up with a specific number. I would wait to see what the numbers they come up with are. And then we decide whether we want to move forward or not. But time, other factor is time. And that is, it's April, almost May. The best construction time for that project where it is at the foot of a hill is when it's not raining and it's not wet and it's not going to rain and it's not going to be wet. So this time that we're serving to delay and having to raise money, and that's gonna take some time. I suggest you go out to bid, and I know that's not a popular view, but ask the people that bid to give a 90 to 120 day time period for validity, so we have a chance to respond to it. If we need to raise more than 100, more than 200, we have time to do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. The next slip is from Tina Dickinson.
Thank you, President Scott. Tina Dickinson.
The public learned on March 13, 2025 of an unknown monetary funding gap between funds raised for the skate park and what might be required to fill the gap. This is the third board meeting in 6 weeks related to the skate park gap and MOU issues. I will ask the logical question again. How can the GM and board determine a reliable monetary funding gap without making RFPs, requests for proposals? A director at an early meeting said a gap was first noticed in September of 24, yet it took 7 months to inform the public. At the April 10th meeting, the skate park item veered toward the fire department's wish list, with the fire chief making comments of public comment during the skate park agenda item, all related to the needs of the fire department. That's a first in my books. And today we see cast into the agenda of a skate park item, a new fire engine for the fire department to be paid for in 25 in the amount of $1,218,000, while the skate park, with an inflated CCSD projected budget cost of $1,200,000, is slated for 26. Delaying the skate park will likely guarantee elevated costs and require county permit extensions. I ask you, what city, town, etc., would turn down a $600,000 grant, heroic fundraising efforts which continue, a county tourism board grant of $47,500, a CCSD donation of $178,000, and $21,696 from the Pros Commission, which was listed in the March 17 board agenda packet, and I provided it for you today. Those numbers are what you had for all of the funding. So I would just say delaying the skate park project will likely cost more, require county permit extensions, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. The demands being placed on State Cambria and the Community Council are excessive and unjustified. In March, I asked the board, what might you want your legacy to be? And how may you want to be remembered by the community you represent? Which from written and verbal comments clearly support the skate park. I'm asking that question again. Before you discuss, deliberate, and vote on the item before you, I'm asking that you consider as part of your legacy, the youth of Cambria, the ones who have been overlooked for way too long, the young folk here now, and those to follow who will be able to reflect on what this board did for them in Cambria. You have said you support this project. Then today will be a test of your support, not by delaying, but by supporting this project sooner than later. Too much time has already gone by. Thank you.
Thank you. So is there anyone in the audience that did not give me a slip that would like to? Okay. Mr. Howell.
Thank you. I'll try to talk as loud as I can here.
Don
Don Howell. Two points I want to make. The first is that, based on what I've been hearing from the public, and I really don't think there's anybody in this room who doesn't want the skate park, including you guys here. And all you people, I don't think there's one single person here that is against the skate park as far as the concept goes. Where the difficulty arises, as far as I see it, is a disagreement as to the degree of caution that this board needs to exercise as it goes forward to support this project. So in that regard, and based upon what I've heard, it might be well for someone to explain the conditions behind the $600,000 grant. What they may not understand are the numerous strings attached to that and the consequences of what we have to do if we are unable to complete the project. So that needs to be brought forward because I don't think it's been heard. The other thing, and this is my own personal opinion, I want to see the skate park and watched it since it started. But I am concerned that if we fall into setting the bar too low, because we don't wish to discourage all these people from working so hard, that if we set it too low, then the risk rises But on the other hand, you don't want to set it so high that everyone is absolutely and completely discouraged. I just urge you to set it as high as you possibly can whilst still maintaining the enthusiasm for the project. That's all I wanted to say. But especially, please let people know about that grant. It isn't what people think it is.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
those questions are gonna be answered with the presentation. Thank you. Okay,
President Scott,
yes,
I hope you don't mind. Wayne Gracie was here 2 weeks ago. His name has been mentioned today. Obviously, he's highly regarded in this community, not just as a contractor, but as a person.
right.
You can't hear me?
Yes,
All right, thank you. So he sent me, a written statement that he'd like me to read, if you don't mind.
You wanna stand up? Stand up. Yes, please, Director Farmer, would you read, your statement?
Listen, this isn't my statement. This is something that Wayne Gracie has sent me. As we know, I'll just review what I just said. He spoke 2 weeks ago. He's unable to make it here today. He's highly regarded in this community as a person and as a contractor. So here's the written comment that he requested that I read to all of us, but especially to the board. I would like to commend the district for being proactive on the skate park project. Your commitment to the youth of our community is important. Your donation of $178,000 from the general fund, as well as the $600,000 grant you secured, shows your commitment to the project. I also want to acknowledge the hard work and dedication of Skate Cambria fundraising. It appears the current funding from CCSD, Skate Cambria, and community donations is very close to the preliminary estimates submitted to the district. There is one estimate which is significantly higher and should not be considered in the running, especially since they are not experienced in skate park construction. I also highly recommend the district explore using the park designer Spawn Ranch as the contractor for the project. They provided the plans and specifications and are highly qualified, having built numerous skate parks under various site conditions. They also have expressed a high level of interest to see the project completed and become an asset to our community. It seems logical, since the funds being held could get a significant portion of the project. It seems logical, since the funds being held could get a significant portion of the project, if not at all completed, that the district proceed with formal bidding and construction as current fundraising continues. Several other skate parks in our county have portable toilets installed instead of permanent bathrooms. They seem to service the park user just fine. This could save at least $200,000 from the construction costs. I understand it may be a county regulation to have a permanent bathroom facility. However, it may be worth pursuing a waiver on that requirement. A suggestion might be to initially use a temporary toilet so that the skate park can be completed and be in use sooner. The permanent bathroom, if required, could be built at a later date.
Yeah, good.
There are so few options for the kids in our community. They deserve to have a permanent facility that positively promotes activity, health, and well-being. The skate park will be a place for locals and tourists of all varieties and ages. It will be a welcome addition to our community. As a general contractor and former skateboarder, I approve this message. Respectfully submitted, Wayne Gracie, Cambria.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Farmer. Oh, okay, Mr. Pearson.
Thank you. Board of Directors, fellow citizens. Dave Pearson, I'm the former director and also currently the vice president of the Fire Safe Council for SLO County. And I had some prepared remarks on it. This really comes down to the fact that the general fund is underfunded. And we're underfunding the things that all of the community wants to have happen, including properly paying our firefighters who are currently underpaid, being prepared to buy fire engines that we need, being prepared to upgrade those things that we do, and I commend this board for, in the past couple of years, taking money out of the reserves and giving it to the fire department to buy those things like protective equipment that they needed. The Fire Safe Focus Group has a fundraiser benefit this May 3rd, where we hope to get $75,000-80,000 that will be used by the Fire Safe Council to buy things that the firemen need. This isn't the way to do it, but it's the way we're getting it done. It's similar to what the skate park people are doing, raising funds to get something done because we don't have the money to fund it ourselves. So the answer is we need to get some funding. And that comes down to either a beneficial assessment or incorporation. And I agree with Aaron Lynn, who said that we don't have enough money. And FFRP maybe should step up and take care of more of their maintenance. And how are we going to take care of this vets hall that is falling apart around us? And how are we going to do that? Well, in 2017, our community had the opportunity to vote on the beneficial assessment, and it failed. Well, in 18 months, hopefully this board will give you another chance to vote on a beneficial assessment to get the funding of the general fund where it needs to be, to fund the things that we all need. We all need skate parks, we all need firefighters and the right equipment for those people, for public safety. We also need a nice vet hall so we can all enjoy it. So, the next time the beneficial assessment comes up, please vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to applaud.
Yeah, we want to go. Who else? Yes, please come forward.
I'm Michelle Pike, and I've never spoken in front of you guys before, but I wanted you to take note of what I have on my body.
An apron.
I have an apron on, and that is because I was cooking cookies for the fundraiser for the skate park. And I found out with very little notice that we had another, I'm not gonna say opportunity, another chance to, like, why are we here again? Yes, because I feel like wasn't a unanimous decision made, and like I said, I don't know how this particularly works, but as like a normal Cambrian who's just trying to, you know, help out and help for the good of all, it just seems, are you trying to frustrate us and make us give up? We're not gonna do it.
Good.
That's all.
Yeah. Thank you. Anybody else? Yes. Are you getting
Hi there.
their names?
Jeffrey Smith, and helping with Skate Cambria fundraising from near the beginning. I just want to thank everyone that showed up, put time, effort into this project, the board, CCSD, and the public. It's just been amazing the amount of support. I mean, it's clear the public wants this project. In fact, we have on Sunday, 12 different hospitality partners coming together, working together just to raise money. I mean, it's amazing. Specifically, I want to address though on the estimates, like many others have said, the Canon estimate I feel should be thrown out. It's been said before, we know there was a big landscaping budget in there, about 270,000. There's also about 83,000 for electrical in there, and we've heard that's only gonna be about 15. So as you go through the budget on that, there's a lot of fat in there that I don't think really makes sense. The other item in terms of the contingency fund, when you research that, typically contingency funds 5 to 10%, complex projects 15%. So I just really encourage the board to keep it reasonable in terms of going with standards and what's typically out there. Some cities even have 10% standards they use across the board for projects. So yeah, we really just want to get this done. And the way the grant works is the money's held up until project is done and it's reimbursement after. So the sooner we get this project done, the sooner that 600,000 goes back in the general fund and is available for fire and everything else. So again, just want to thank everybody and let's move forward and get this done.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes.
Hi, I'm Renee Lynn, and I own Lynn's Restaurant. For years, I have seen some darn good skateboarders trying to bank off of the curb by our restaurant. And it breaks my heart to go out and tell them they can't do it. Our kids need a place to be, and I think that's the least we can do as a community to get this thing through. These people have worked tirelessly, it's time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, we have some on Zoom.
Elizabeth Bettenhausen, followed by Casey.
Okay, Dr. Bettenhausen?
I have never seen a more encouraging group of people. This is, after 22 years, a marvelous sense of hallelujah. I think various people have made clear that there are many, many financial changes you can make to make this happen tomorrow. And I hope that in the future, you may remember this meeting as one of the high points of your term as director of the district, because it is a meeting where all the people come out. You've had one or two negative comments, but given even the merits thereof, you have all of those positive comments about 5 years of preparation, and now you're going to get on with it. So please listen so very carefully and make your judgment according to the will of the people. I thank you very much for the opportunity to see Cambria as a community speaking up and defending our children who very much are looking forward to having a skate park. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bettenhausen.
Casey.
Casey, Casey, do you have a last name? Go ahead.
You're muted.
We can't hear you. Nope.
Christina Galloway.
Okay. Ms. Galloway?
Hi, Christina Galloway, Cambria. So some of us attend board meetings often. We do our research and we champion things like fiscal responsibility. That commitment for some of us goes beyond single issue demands to limit the financial liability of a private entity and pass project costs and overages onto the public. You've said that Skate Cambria has always been on the straight and narrow, yet a recent quote given to the local news stated that CCSD moved to botch the project to regain its $600,000 in general funds. You say cap the gap, but I'd ask for who? Skate Cambria or the Cambrians who will be left footing the bill if project costs continue to rise in the absence of a responsible contingency being set? I've heard people question the general manager's commitment to this. I'll remind you that he is who secured the grant. I've heard you bash the fire chief for speaking up and insinuating that he has no business advocating for the well-being and financial needs of his department because he doesn't live in Cambria. Just sad. So I just like to remind people this is about nothing more than responsible financial management. That's it. Please stop making anything more out of it than that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Galloway. Anybody else online? No. Okay. Nobody else in here? Right. Wow. Okay, that was great. Thank you so very much for all of you coming and speaking to us. Yes, you may be. Thank you. I'm gonna go ahead.
It myself.
I'm gonna go ahead and have our general manager present this agenda item. This is agenda item 3A.
Thank you, President Scott. Agenda item 3, can everybody hear me? Mostly?
Yeah.
Agenda item 3A, discussion and consideration to establish required funding amount to be held by Cambria Community Council and the Cambria Community Service District for construction, operation, and maintenance of the Cambria Skate Park project. To select a 10%, 15%, or 20% contingency for the project budget and establish a deadline for Skate Cambria to demonstrate the secured project funding. It's been mentioned that we brought forward a second amendment to the MOU that reinforces and clarified that the Cambria Community Council, through Skate Cambria's fundraising efforts, will be responsible for any funding shortfalls such as, but not limited to, inflation, change orders, and costs related to any suspension of work that may be necessary due to lack of funds after the award of the construction contract. Per previous board guidance and resolution, the district's costs will remain limited to the previously committed $178,000 unless the board of directors today changes that direction. As far as staff concerns, and it's been mentioned here today, there are concerns about the funding shortfall regarding the project. Those are based on cost estimates and engineering estimates, which are not necessarily the same. And I'll get into that a little bit. And that there will be a likelihood of material cost constructions, costs that will escalate due to economic factors and inflation. Those cost estimates and engineering estimates, they came from the ad hoc committee that was established to take a look at this project. So when we were looking at what number needed to be raised for the skate park, once we recognized that there were shortfalls based on inflation, we requested those estimates and requested additional engineering estimates. At the last board meeting, that engineering estimate from Canon, the board decision was to reduce it by $235,000 to drop that number from the 1.9, because as mentioned last board meeting by staff, that 235 for landscaping was significantly off the mark. As far as for Mrs. Tatum's comment about the landscaping, some of those are actually county requirements for actual drainage issues. So it's a part of the requirement, but again, it shouldn't be very expensive as far as landscaping goes, but I'll move on. From the district's perspective, and was mentioned today by Mrs. Galloway and some other folks, the district was approved for a $600,000 grant, which will match up to a total of 1.2 million. That has been secured. I spoke with the granting agency today, and we're expecting funding some point in April. It's in their court. We also dedicated from the general fund reserves $178,000. The district also secured from the Cambria Tourism Board another $47,500, which brings the district's total of $825,000 towards the project. The district has been committed to moving this project forward, despite some recent comments and the fact that we are facing some inflation and cost overruns. To date, and I know Mr. Clark is here, and we have updated numbers that were given to us after the agenda posted, but I'll give what numbers I have now and he can correct those. But cash on hand for the Cambria Community Council was $327,000 and $327,033. When we add that to the grant, what's remaining of the $178,000, because there have been pre-construction costs to this. So when we talked about the initial goal of 1.2 million, that 1.2 million has been chipped away at as we've been going through the permitting process, archaeological, sound studies, design. Up to now, between the Cambria Community Council and the district, we spent about $145,000 towards pre-construction costs, which is chipped away at what we have left, which goes back to that $1 million that we're sitting at now. So ultimately, staff's concerns are due to some of the capital improvement projects that we have ahead of us, and our presentation today that I'll turn over to our consultants here in a little bit, have to do with public safety. We have multiple fire apparatus that do need to be replaced. And while there were some comments about a new engine isn't going to save your life, you do have to have fire engines in town that run and don't break down, and we can't always go to Paso Robles to borrow their fire engine. So it is a critical need, okay? And so we have multiple of those needs, and those ultimately will come out of general fund reserves. The district, as a part of the grant, had to encumber $769,000 of general fund reserves as a part of the grant requirement that is reimbursed as we submit invoices to the federal government. Those reimbursements are at 80%. They hold 20% back, and that 20% of the general fund reserves will not be given to us until we complete the project and they do an inspection. Once we break ground on the project, the district is on the hook for any overruns unless we have those monies in hand. If we take the least amount in terms of contingencies and we have overruns, that will come out of the general fund reserves, which are already have a dent taken into them because of what we encumbered, and that limits our ability for emergencies and other fire apparatus, which I'm not trying to pit the fire department against a skate park project or anything else. But when we talk about public safety, there are a hierarchy of needs within the district, providing water, wastewater services, and fire protection. Those are life safety issues, health and safety issues. So that's staff's concern. So when we take a look at what we have on hand, the contingencies, which is up to the board will decide that. There is some sort of a funding gap based on 0% contingency, anywhere from 220,000 all the way up to the 20% contingency, which is 500,000. And I will close with just a couple more comments. When we went to do our municipal review at LAFCO said while our finances are healthy, in their review over 5 years, they have seen a steady decline in our general fund reserves from unfunded parks, rec, and open space projects. Fiscal Ranch is one of them. This theoretically would be another unfunded project. And they had concerns about us being able to address unfunded parks, rec, and open space expenditures that keep draining our general fund. That is staff's concern as well. So ultimately, before I turn it over to our consultants, excuse me, it is recommended the board of directors establish a required funding target for the project budget ranging from 1.252 million to 1.540 million, including the desired contingency for construction, operation, and maintenance of Cambria Skate Park, and establish a deadline by which Cambria must demonstrate that necessary funds have been secured in order to proceed with issuing requests for proposals per the MOU. And with President Scott's permission, I'd like to introduce Waterworth. Waterworth is a company and a vendor that the district is working with for long-range financial forecasting. And that has never really been done in Cambria. That's why we're in the position we are now. We haven't done a very good job in terms of long-range financial forecasting. And so this company allows for cost recovery management, scenario exploration on different expenditures out of reserves or the overall budget, and ensures financial stability in the long term and delivering the quality service that we're here to deliver. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Hunter on Zoom.
Thank you. Thank you for the warm introduction, Mr. McElhaney. And thank you, board members, staff members, and members of the public for having us here today. I do believe I'll need access to share my screen, so I just need someone to give me access to that. Perfect.
You just got promoted.
I did? Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. So to give a little further context into how we came to working with the CCSD, after a number of conversations with district staff, we really understand that it's a priority to provide financial transparency for obviously the board, but members of the public especially. Waterworth was built specifically for that, as Mr. McElhaney had mentioned. It's extremely visual, and it's truly to generate a deep understanding of the sustainability for each of these funds that the district manages, to deliver the quality service that we aim to deliver. So I should mention in tonight's meeting agenda, there has been a report demonstrating the presentation that we'll be going through together. But in the recent weeks, we've worked with district staff to onboard financial data. We took information directly out of the district's capital plan, which currently has 27 capital projects totaling just over $7 million. But district staff have prioritized 6 of these most pressing capital needs, including the skate park, out of those 27 that need funding over the next 5 years. So our goal today is to demonstrate the strain it's going to have on general fund reserves to complete even just 6 of these 27 projects. So I'm going to spend the next 5 to 10 minutes telling the story of where we're at today, where we're headed, and then of course we will open it up for discussions. Mateus, my colleague, is with me here today. He handled a lot of the onboarding of the data. He can also speak to any specific technical questions that anyone may have. So I'm going to pull up my screen here. Can everyone see my screen all right?
Yep.
Yep. Okay, beautiful. So this is going to be the main dashboard. And again, the CCSD has been working with us and will have access to run different scenarios for certain capital projects or budget expenditures to really demonstrate that transparency. And what we've done here is we've actually created 2 scenarios, one with all 27 projects and one with the 6 most pressing capital needs over the next 5 years. So I'm going to highlight and focus on this scenario just to give that overall consensus, high-level understanding of where we're truly at. So the first thing I'm going to do is isolate the cash position. And as you can see, it is starting to deplete in years to come. Now, with that being said, we all have to ask ourselves, well, why is that happening? Well, one of the first things we have to mention is our operating expenses, as it's been mentioned in previous comments throughout this board meeting. Inflation is hitting everyone, especially municipal services and government agencies across North America. So we've accounted for 3% inflation on operating expenses, seeing out into the future. Luckily, there's very little debt service currently on the books. We do have some, but the next big thing is the capital improvements. And a few of these big ones are going to be 2 fire engines that are needed and are critical to public safety. But we also have to factor in the skate park and other things that are going to grow and make the community better, right? Now, as we've identified all of our revenue requirements, one of the most important things when we think about fiscal transparency is, well, are we fully recovering our costs? And as I start to bring in, as an example, administrative charges, as I start to bring in property taxes, we can kind of see how we're starting to stack up against our expenditures. And at the end of the day, we can also factor in other operating revenue, some developer contributions. That's going to be part of some of the funding for this skate park project, non-operating revenue, and of course, grants. So we've actually factored in that $600,000 grant and all of the additional outsourced funds that the district has acquired for the skate park project. And with those funds included, our cash position is still depleting into the future. So with that being said, this is giving everyone a really high level overview into where we're truly at and where we're headed. This is going to be a continuous platform that the district will be able to utilize. We'll be here for assistance, but I'm happy to open it up for any questions that anybody may have.
Mr. Hunter, just to clarify, when you speak of cash position, you're talking about the overall budget and general fund reserves?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Do board members have questions?
Now, one of the questions that has been raised is on these slides, is the skate park, the revenue coming in from the grant and from Skate Cambria included in the revenue? And it sounds like it is, but that would be good to comment on. The cost is in here. So are the incoming funds also included in this block?
Yes, that is a great question. We have all of the different revenues, including the private groups funds. We also have, as it's isolated here, the grant that we have received, that we plan to receive and that we will get reimbursed in, that's $600,000. That is also included. So everything has been included. This is saying, if all goes well, this is still where our cash position is going to end up. If I toggle it on here, you'll see with all of those funds allocated, our cash position is still going to be depleting into the future.
Any other questions from the board? Director Farmer, nothing? Okay.
Yeah, I would like to ask the gentleman, as General Manager McElhaney said, the future looks, let's say, slightly problematic with regard to the finances of the district. So how would you encourage this board today moving forward with this particular item that we're discussing that is most valuable to this community? With regard to financing of this project and what we could anticipate moving forward to the best of our ability, both the district and the people that are doing the fundraising.
Yeah, I think that's a really great question, sir, and thank you. I think the most important thing to think about here is we're really making decisions based on what the data is telling us, right? And at the end of the day, based on the conversations that are being had, we just have to, exactly as we did, we isolated 6 of the most pressing capital needs. We might not be able to get all 27 done. We're going to have to prioritize projects. And when it comes to funding for this specific project, even with the outsourced funding we're receiving, the data is showing that since our reserve funds are depleting, we need outsourced funding at the end of the day. Right. And it sounds like we've got a lot and hopefully we'll be able to get that. But this process, it takes time. It's not easy. I mean, I know we work with over 300 municipalities across North America. A lot of communities are facing issues when it comes to getting access to outsourced funding. Right. A lot of federal funding has been seized in certain municipalities and communities and across different states. So it's very difficult to get that access, but it just has to be diligent. And the reason we have to be diligent, the reason we have to walk through different scenarios and really take our time with this is the one thing we want to avoid is it impacting our taxpayers in the future. And we have to weigh out all options to make sure that we're serving our taxpayers the best way possible. So I don't have an exact answer, but it's basically as it shows what staff has recommended. Utilizing any more of the reserve funds from the district is just it's just not possible.
Thank you very much. This was really helpful. And this is part of our strategic plan, is to look at long-term financial planning.
And this will be done for all departments.
So we do have, did you want to say something else? Because we do have our ad hoc committee that was formed for this project. And I think it would be helpful to have a report from that ad hoc committee.
Sure, I believe Director Dean's ready to do that piece of it.
First of all, I want to say that we have 178,000.
You have to yell.
Yeah.
Stand up and face.
Thank you.
Please do that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to say that when the 178,000 was offered by the board for this skate park project, there are 4 directors in this room right now that approved that 178,000. And that is myself, Director Farmer, Director Gray, and former Director Don Howell. Okay, when that 178, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Right.
Tom was a no.
The original vote, I was an A.
Oh,
She was in, he was.
It's in the agenda.
Yeah.
So
okay, okay.
I'm not hiding
That's true.
it.
Director Gray did vote against it to the beginning, but he came around. Okay. Pardon me?
I said I'd like to explain why.
Oh, would you explain why you voted no to begin with?
Can I do that?
Sure.
Oh, well, yeah, let's finish this
Yeah.
report and then, yeah.
Okay, so the condition of us offering the 178,000 was that this was all we could afford to donate towards the skate park from the general fund. And in this discussion, Skate Cambria agreed that they would raise the entire balance of what the skate park would cost. General Manager McElhaney has explained the MOUs that we have entered into. He's explained about the grant and all of that, but there's a little bit more that I want to fill in. So we contracted with Monte Soto Civil Design Studios to help us with the design and engineering and planning for the skate park for the preliminary permitting. And he came up at that point with an engineering cost estimate of $1,020,461. And that was early on in this project. Here's my date here. Anyway, so when we got to the point of the grant, we looked at that number again, and it was determined that since it had been 2 years since he came up with an engineering cost, and the engineering cost numbers come from a manual that all of California uses, not specifically to Cambria, and you know our costs are a little bit different. So when it came to applying for the grant, it was agreed that a contingency be added to the engineering cost estimate due to the period of time that had passed to bring the project up to $1.2 million for the grant application. And because of that, we had to encumber the $768,784, which was the original amount we agreed to, and the $600,000 that we were required to show that we had available for the match. General Manager McElhaney needs to be applauded along with the staff for all of the efforts he put to make sure that grant got submitted by that deadline of June 1st, 2023. And since that time, they have all worked very hard on all of the studies, the surveys, and all of the requirements that were required for that grant. He went out in August 30th, the district went out for a request for proposal from qualified professional skate park design firms for design of the skate park project to aid us in the permitting process. The intent was for the design firm to provide complete design services, including community outreach, refinement of the original conceptual design, the final design, construction plans, specifications, and engineering cost estimates for the final design of just that skate park portion. On September 5th, we had an ad hoc committee meeting, and it included Director Farmer and myself, the general manager, the utilities manager, our program manager, our F&R manager, Ms. Dodson, Ms. Amadei from Skate Cambria, Steve Niffen, Dick Clark from the Community Council and District Council Carmel. And the purpose of that meeting was to review the proposals that we had received in response to that RFP. And the ad hoc committee decided to go with Swan Ranch. They've been involved from the very beginning. On September 19th, 2024, that agreement for consultant services with Swan Ranch for the preparation of the plans and specifications for the Cambria K Park was brought before the board in public for discussion and approval. The Skate Park Ad Hoc Committee has held several meetings in the past few months. In addition to that September 5th, 2024 meeting regarding the review of the RFP responses, the committee met again on September 11th, October 2nd, and October 30th. All of the above mentioned people that attended that other skate park ad hoc committee meeting were attending, including Monte Soto from Civil Design Studio, Julie Amadei from Skate Cambria, Steve Niffen, and Aaron Spahn from Spahn Ranch attended 2 of these meetings via Zoom. We had discussions on the current engineering cost estimate of the skate park project and the status of the funds that had been raised by Skate Cambria thus far for the construction. The engineering estimate was discussed and Mr. Spahn gave his input regarding his experience with skate park construction and stated that as a professional skate park contractor, he only would deal with the skate park itself. And if he were doing the project, he would have to subcontract everything else out as other skate park contractors would probably have to do. In reverse, if we hire a general contractor, he would most likely have to subcontract out the skate park portion itself. Mr. Clark, as the fiscal agent for Skate Cambria, reported on the amount of funds held by the community council on behalf of Skate Cambria, and it was determined that there was a gap in the funds required based on the civil design estimate and that more fundraising was needed. As the engineering estimate that we were reviewing was from 2022, Mr. Soda was requested to update his numbers. We discussed whether or not it was appropriate to go out for RFP at that time to obtain more accurate numbers for the gap in funding, but realized it was not the best policy to do so when it was obvious the funds were not in hand to enter into a contract for the project. And that going for RFP without the ability to enter into a contract could affect the RFP responses to the district once the funds were finally in hand. Per the Skate Cambria's request for an amount of remaining funds needed prior to going to RFP, the staff agreed to seek additional informal engineering and construction estimates. All of these informal estimates used Spahn Ranch's numbers, as did Civil Design Studio, for the skate park portion of the project. Skate Cambria, the ad hoc, and the community council were all forwarded these informal estimates as they were received. Another meeting was held December 5th at the skate park site, and attending were directors Dean and Farmer, Miss Amadei, Mr. McElhaney, Mr. Green, Mr. Reaper, Cisco from Coastline Grading, the manager of Sticks and Stones, Brian Mueller for landscaping, Dick Clark, and Steve Niffen. The main topic was the demolition and clearing of the site for the preparation of the skate park construction and the possibility of in-kind donations for that work and for the landscaping to help offset some of the costs of the project. Coastline Grading mentioned that they could provide an informal estimate for that entire project and included a number for a possible in-kind donation for clearing the lot. And he was requested to submit that informal estimate. Still, I'm sorry. Louder.
I have a lot of reading.
I'm almost done. Okay.
We can't hear you.
But still, as of March 2025, we hadn't seen very much movement at all in terms of increase of skate park funds deposited with the community council. Hence the discussion we had at the March 13th CSD board meeting. So that is from the start of those later ad hoc committee meetings where we did realize there was a gap until March. All of these informal estimates that were received, 2 in October, 1 in December, 1 in January, are what you see included in the board agenda packets for the April 10th and April 24th meetings, and are the numbers that are currently under discussion. These estimates are now months old, so the concern for contingency is being discussed. The CCSD has met all that they agreed to do and more from the very beginning in 2021. The CCSD has secured the grant for $600,000 in matching funds, a $47,500 grant for the restroom. The permit is in hand and the clock is ticking. It is now up to Skate Cambria to raise the remaining funds as they have committed several times to do in order to go out for RFP and move forward with the construction. The time it has taken to complete the grant and the lack of funds at this point is what is causing the delay. We are not trying to stop the project. We all really want to see that skate park project built, but we need to do it financially responsibly. So please go out there and fundraise. We want to see it done.
Okay, so I'm thinking
possibly we should let, Mr. Clark say what he was going to say.
I think if we go back to this graph here, there's one person on the board that understood this 37 months ago. When we started negotiating, that's Director Gray. Thank you. The votes were 4-1. Was not a hard no, it was a yes with a condition. And the condition was you had to provide a maintenance fund to even that out. So we've set up the State Cambria project to pay for itself. We're gonna fund it. We have a maintenance fund that's invested across the street at Edward Jones. We invested $62,000. It's now $65,254 last night. So State Cambria, and we went out and got private funding. Got $1 raise from our children going to the maintenance. Going to go back 10, 15 years from now. So,
Yeah, I gotta add.
so, and I also want to comment, since we're 37 months in this project, or 1,122 days since we signed the MOU. This board has voted 5-0 all the way through.
Yeah.
Once we got Tom aboard.
Well, I want to explain a little more. Yeah, it's good. Thank you. Yeah, I since I was, have to sort of basically give a little history here. Yes, I voted against the funding, in November of 2021 it was, I think. Yeah, I voted against the funding then, and there are two reasons actually why I changed my position to support. To me, the most important one was the MOU. Without an MOU, we did not have an MOU at that time. You notice the agenda packet is very complete. It has all of the background documents, including the 3 iterations of the memorandum of understanding with the community council. The first one was passed, and I was a strong supporter of it, was passed in the spring of 2022, which established clearly that as Mr. Clark says, there had to be a separate fund for maintenance, but also clearly established that there would be no, first of all, there'd be, the commitment from the CCSD was capped at $178,000, which includes money spent on design and all the other things we're going to do. It's all a dollar amount. And then there would be no construction beginning until the money, whatever money was needed, was in hand at the CCSD in both the account for the maintenance and the account for construction. And I was comfortable with that because it was protecting the general fund, which was, I think, was a real concern of mine 4 years ago, and it is now. That's continued to be my concern. So, and I don't want to, monopolize the discussion now, but I think as General Manager McElhaney has pointed out, and as this projections have pointed out, we have a serious long-term problem with meeting our needs in public safety, especially. And secondarily, in maintenance of our facilities, which are considerable. We have a fire station at the Betts Hall, we have other facilities that are old, aging. Recreation has always been an unfunded responsibility of ours, want to call it that. We've never had proper funding for recreation. If we're going to start giving money to projects, we have to have a revenue source that we don't have now, and we don't have now. So I remain, adamant that we don't go over the 178,000. As for ideas how to do this, I'll turn it back to the, for discussion, because I don't want to get too far ahead of things. I was intrigued though by one idea Mr. Lacy and David Lacy came up with, but I think Director Dean might have addressed it already. We're guessing here a lot. We're still guessing about how much the bids will be. I mean, we don't know until we get bids. And we can't get bids until we are ready to actually go out to bid. Nothing we have there is a bid now. Nothing that terminology is sometimes kind of loose. We don't have a bid from anybody. We have educated guesses. We have mock bids, but what I understand his suggestion was, it's almost like a contingent bid. Say we ask what would happen, and I asked Mr. Carmel if we can even do this. Would it be possible to say, ask for bids for a project that would be initiated 6 months from now and have RFPs come back, put an RFP out and have bids come back for that to get hard numbers. Because the only hard number is a bid where, it's a contract if the bid gets accepted, they're obligated to do the job for the amount of money they say they're gonna do it for. And it's sort of the truth test for a lot of their claims as to how much it would cost and so forth. What if we had it with a long period of, a period of validity, I think is what the term was, 6 months, say, so the fundraising could proceed. I'm just asking if that's even possible. I don't know if Mr. Carmel could say, or if it's a good practice.
Can we?
Yeah.
Put Mr. Carmel?
He's on.
Okay.
It's certain, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, yeah.
Certainly it's possible. Contractors generally aren't in the business of providing sample bids. And it's certainly going to affect the cost if they know going in, those bids are not going to be utilized if they're willing to bid at all. Because I think we'd have to be perfectly honest about the purpose of the bids. So yes, it is possible. I don't know whether you'd get accurate bids in response.
Well, what I was saying is the bid would be contingent on the money being raised. In other words, if the money is raised, the bid would go into effect. The contract would be signed.
Yeah, I've actually never heard of a conditional bid. I suspect it could be done, but it would be filled with risks.
Okay, thank you. If you want me, certainly.
Yeah, is there anything else you would like to share with us, Mr. Consultant?
No, I just want to say thank you to everyone once again for having us here today. And we're really excited for the continued partnership and to continue to provide that transparency into where we're at, where we're heading. And just on the note of what was just being discussed and going through what if scenarios and understanding and make sure we're being as financially responsible as possible. We're excited to walk through those scenarios and continue to show you in a way that's easily digestible. So thank you all so much for having us here.
Thanks.
And this is really important part of what needs to happen here in Cambria, so thank you.
Oh, thank you all.
Okay.
I know.
Okay, anything else from the board members? Thank you for your report, that was great. Yes.
I don't think everybody appreciates.
Oh. Yes, Vice President Thomas.
Yeah, thank you, President Scott. First, I just wanted to check, we heard the ad hoc
Right.
From Director Dean. Is there anything else that Director Farmer wanted to provide from the ad hoc? It's closer to the source than I am before I jump in. Thank you.
I think the only thing that I would like to add is the commitment of everybody involved in the ad hoc committee, and I especially want to thank Dick Clark because he's juggling a lot of financial balls here with regard to keeping things as.
Yeah.
I didn't think so.
But I was just saying, that the ad hoc committee has been very committed to getting the skate park built. And I want to commend especially Mr. Dick Clark, who has volunteered basically his time with regard to coordinating the monies for having this project ultimately come to fruition. To me, right now, the main problem is how quickly can we get the funds raised to move forward with this project? And that's hopefully what we'll be able to determine today by deciding how much more monies Skate Cambria has to raise to get the project moving forward and getting construction underway at some point.
Thank you, Director Farmer. Shall I come back to you and you can, oh, sorry, it's your turn.
Yeah, thank you, President Scott. And, one thing I'm thinking, and I love Director Gray's idea of this contingent RFP, but that's one course of action. I think we need to do everything we can, everything in our power to make this happen sooner rather than later. For a lot of reasons, not just because of cost escalation. We know the longer it takes, the more it's going to cost. As, Mrs. Did I say it right? Predecessor or successor Perez? I'm sorry.
Predecessor.
Thank you. Pointed out, the risk of having that grant funding clawed back, there's uncertainty. And, the sooner we get that, the better. And as, Mr. Jeffrey Smith, the hardworking young man, pointed out, the sooner we get this built, the sooner we get those encumbered funds back. But I think there's another, perhaps counterintuitive reason that we need to, there are so many local contractors who would love to have their name on this project. There's a lot of love in Cambria, so much talent. Since moving here 7 years ago, I've been blown away by the talent in this town. They're watching, and they will know what target level we set. And every one of them is going to want to get this project secured. And, I'm not saying they'll exactly be tripping over themselves, but there is going to be competitive pressure of the local folks who want to build this contract, to build the skate park. And they'll know what this target is, and they'll be darned if they're going to bid over that because they want this project. And so irony is, the higher we set this target level, the more it's likely to cost. It's a case of be careful what you ask for. We are talking about the people's money. It's the money that the community has raised, and it just boggles my mind. The hundreds of thousands of dollars Skate Cambria has raised reminds me of what the community did 25 years ago to secure our treasure at Fiscaling Ranch Preserve. That's my passion. So again, the higher we set the contingency, the higher the bids are going to end up being. It's kind of human nature. So I am advocating it. It's not zero because we've got some uncertainties, but I'm advocating that we we establish the 10% contingency, and we should discuss the bid from Canon. It does look like a herring when you look at 3 bids that are right around the same, not bids. Apologies, the general manager, I'm pulling into the local cap, but because those are estimates, and we understand that an estimate is easy. When you bid, but place a bid, you are placing your firm at risk. So we understand those are clearly different. But there are contractors in this community that have blown my socks off with their capabilities. So I'm advocating for a 10% contingency, lock that down, discuss potentially throwing out that high bid, and putting the 10% contingency on that average of those 3, set that target, and launch the Skate Cambria to get to work.
Hey, any other?
We're still in discussion.
Yeah, we're still in discussion.
Yeah, that's not a motion.
Not a motion, okay.
No.
We, one unanswered question in this discussion so far is, how long is it gonna take to raise the money that needs to be raised? Because it's at least several hundred, $200,000.
Right.
Even at the 10% contingency, it's quite a bit of money.
Right.
And it's like almost $500,000 at the top end. But I suggested, as is noted in the staff report last meeting, that we set some kind of a deadline, and there are 2 really good reasons for that. I think one is that it gives Skate Cambria a target and kind of a drop dead date, and we got to get it done. That motivates. But the other one is that it keeps the project cost from just floating off, floating higher and higher and higher because of inflation, and then fundraising keeping chasing this number. You may never ever get the money if you just don't have a hard date at which the money has to be raised. I said 6 months, and I was also saying, when I was talking about just floating the idea of some contingent bidding, you know, if somebody wants to bid on a project that would be starting 6 months from now, contingent on the fundraising, that would be a number probably that has a pretty high contingency in it. It would be by nature. So if you're gonna have a deadline for fundraising, we're assuming that RFP is 6 months from now too, if it's gonna be the deadline. Well, I think that any bid that we assume at this point is gonna account for that 6 months of time. There already has been about 6 months roughly between the time of those estimates and now. So we're talking about numbers that will be a year old by the time the RFP goes out, no matter what course of action we take, whether we do. And I think the idea of having a deadline with some contingency figure and average is probably what we're gonna do. We're gonna have to figure that the passage of time will make it less certain from our point of view that things will be the same in 6 months. I think I'd argue for a higher contingency as a reason, as a result of that. Just because we need to be ready for things happening in the world of engineering. We have estimates now. I'll say one more thing, just from my own personal history. I was involved, as many of you probably know, in the initial phases of the EWS project back before it was even funded. And I watched kind of close up how a project goes from engineering estimates of say, at that time, like $5.5 million, in about 4 months, $39 million, when it came time to actually fund it. That's what happens when you actually get down to, you know, hard numbers, hard plans, design, and everything is spelled out in real detail. Then you bid on that. It's usually quite a bit more than you thought it would be. And we have to be ready for that. So that's my argument for a high contingency. Like I think most people bidding on this will probably do the same thing at this point.
I have 3 questions.
Yes.
Yes,
Dr. Dean.
yes,
Okay,
Director Dean.
we have the permit in hand. How long is the permit that we have in hand good for?
The permit that we have on hand, is for a year.
Okay, and in that year, is it a year to get started or a year to complete the project?
Year to complete,
A year to complete?
correct?
Okay, with the grant. Okay, we know the grant's been approved. We're waiting for the funding. Okay. How long do we have with the grant to start the project?
3 years from initial reimbursement request.
Okay, so once we put in an invoice, how long do we have to finish that project?
3 years.
Okay, I thought it was a year.
No.
A year for the permit, we have 3 years from the first submittal of reimbursement
To finish the
to
project.
finish the project.
Okay, question. Okay, so I was gonna average the estimates without counting to get it.
I have Mrs. Dodson, Ms. Dodson.
Oh, she's doing, okay. Question, okay, so we're talking about if we average these estimates and we figure out what small contingency we wanna put on there. And State Cambria successfully raises the money to get to that point to go out for RFP, and we're gonna assume a deadline for them to raise that money. And we're gonna ask them, I think, how long they think it's gonna raise. I think it's only fair to ask them, okay? So if they raise the money up to the point of us being able to go out for RFP based on those numbers, once we get the proposals back from the RFP, if for some reason, because of all this time, they end up significantly higher than what we anticipated, then what?
Well, that was gonna be my question too. And my question would be, based on the MOUs that we have now, then the council and it would be the council would be responsible for any overages. Is that true?
That is based on the MOU, that it would be the responsibility of the Cambria Community Council in conjunction with State Cambria to close that gap.
Right.
Depending on the way the RFP is set up, how long those bids are good for.
Yeah.
That would give a very narrow window to
Right.
close that gap, and that's a possibility. If we weren't able to close that gap, it would be the board's decision to then reject all bids.
Yeah.
And make a decision at that point.
Yeah, that was my thought. So did you get your question answered?
Well, okay, so someone mentioned that if we got high RFPs,
that there's a possibility of negotiating some costs?
I turn that over to Mr. Green.
I mean, anything's possible. I believe in alternatives. Oh, yeah, anything's possible. I believe in alternatives, so that could potentially, yeah.
But we would be asking State Cambria to raise the difference.
Right.
Right.
Right. Yes, yes, Vice President Thomas.
Yeah, thank you, President Scott. Two paths here. Thinking in terms of how contractors view their business and risk, if we were to pursue this idea of an RFP with a 6-month window, then as a contractor, I would have to say, I don't know which way this economy is going, and everyone sees the intense uncertainty in all markets. So the contractor would have to put in a very large contingency in that estimate. So if we take this other approach, set the contingency, go out to bid once we have the funds in hand with a normal time frame, then the contractor's contingency is going to be smaller. So I think the approach probably should be as we planned, set the target, establish that contingency. Once that's raised, then go out to bid. So the question is, are we ready for a motion or?
I don't know.
No,
Or-
okay, so-
I don't know yet.
I haven't heard
Right.
what the average was. I also haven't heard exactly what is on hand by State Cambria.
Yeah, do we want to ask Mr. Clark to give us those numbers? Mr. Clark, yes, please.
After we paid. Bill Manager Mackley said we had 327,000. We've just received invoice number 7, which is about $19,000, which will bring us down to $308,000 on hand to go forward. And that's with the maintenance fund funded at 65,000, and between the two of us, we put in about 145,000. So we got a few more dollars to spend on the pre-construction. We're done with the maintenance, so we get the two funds that we're addressing. We get the construction part and the contingency part.
Okay.
So what is actually in the count for construction at this point, the 308,000?
That's correct.
Okay, and you had figured out the numbers right now that is on hand for us figuring this gap. So have you adjusted it for that 308?
I just got those numbers today.
Can we adjust it so we can figure out what they need to raise?
Okay.
It's, to me, it's nice to know what the gap is.
Yeah.
But not necessary. I think our job here, and I might be mistaken, but I think our job here is to establish the target number that needs to be in the bank. And then, because who knows, Julie may have gotten the check this morning, right? So that number is going up daily. She's gonna be getting a bunch of checks Sunday. There's funds, I just bought my tickets today, right? So there's 110. So that number is moving. So the gap is, I mean, it's like chasing a squirrel. I mean, we were in Colorado last week. But let's set the target amount that needs to be in the bank. We'll know when we get there. Is that all right? Does that make sense?
But don't they need to know what the gap is in order to tell us how long it's gonna take them to raise it?
Well, let's hear the number from Ms. Dodson.
I have it here, President
Okay.
Scott. So essentially this, with Canon engineering removed, 0% contingency. The average total needed to be raised would be 1.193,794,000. That would create a gap of $179,516. We move up to 10%. The gap now would be $298,000, 896.
1,200,000.
Sorry.
1,298,000.
No, I'm just speaking of the gap.
The gap.
Oh, well, let's not talk about the gap.
Cool.
Let's talk about,
You want the number to raise to.
right,
Okay, let's start back at zero.
Okay.
1.193, comma, 794.
Okay.
0.62.
okay,
Okay,
zero, yeah.
10%. 1.313, comma, 174.08.
1.13.
One,
1.313,
yeah.
comma, 174. 0.08.
Okay.
15%.
Right.
1.372, comma, 863.81.
Okay,
And the gap for that is,
we're never gonna,
well.
I can give you our estimated gaps after I give you the
Yeah.
target numbers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
20%, 1.468, comma, 367.38.
Okay.
Working back to the gap.
Yeah.
At 0%, based on the numbers that, as Vice President Thomas noted, they are moving targets. We just had invoices come in today, get paid, there's checks coming in. So as of now, the estimate is it okay if I round up or down?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, 179,000 for 0%. 10%, 299,000. 15%, 359,000. 20%, $454,000.
Okay. Thank you,
That's without candies.
yes. And no matter what, any overruns will be the responsibility of the council and skate Cambria.
Correct, but with the caveat that if those funds don't come in, we will be deep into the project and already have committed encumbered general fund reserves,
Oh,
which means we'll have sunk general fund reserves in there. And to stop construction or to say we're no longer going to complete the project because we ran out of money.
Yeah.
Means we can't get reimbursed for those funds. So we could be sunk $400,000 and have a half torn up skate park.
okay,
So that's part of the issue with not having a potential contingency.
right,
Is that, once we break ground, the district is committed to completing it. And if we have overruns and no contingency in the background, that goes back to staff's concern about having to dip into general fund reserves.
but yes, but they would be responsible for any overruns. But we're the ones that have made the commitment.
Right. Yes.
Okay, okay, so that, yeah,
It's important, there's no, MOU is not exactly a binding contract, so we are the ones on the hook
yes,
for the money. And we have an agreement with, County Community Council, which is, they're very, honorable people. But if there's a problem, we're just the banker, we're just the banker, yeah, if there's a
Yeah.
problem with, if there's a problem with State County not being able to come up with money, we still have to pay the money,
right,
that's the problem.
right. Okay. Do the board members have any other comments or questions?
I'd like to make a comment.
Okay,
Well, no, I'm just pointing out that the San Medea and Shore Haven have.
I'm not sure. What is it that you want?
I just want to make sure that we're identifying this number and also having the understanding that this can be done in pledges. So.
I
pledges
don't know.
are always done.
I don't know about that.
That also feels a little bit like, I understand that CCSD has to protect themselves and the budget, I do. But there's a little bit in there that also feels like, gosh, we're putting ourselves on the line to commit to this. And it feels a little like, we're being thrown under the bus a little bit, to be
But,
honest.
yeah, but you don't have anything that says you are gonna have to pay no matter what. We do.
I understand that, I
Okay.
do understand that.
Okay,
I'm also saying because we are loyal people and we're gonna commit to what we're committing to.
we understand that.
However, it doesn't feel like we have protections as far as like the budget, like. Where is like, are there things that can be shorn up in that budget, like you spoke about the landscaping, or you spoke about the electrical.
Well, we already are throwing out the top bid,
I
so,
understand that, but I want some kind of security for us that we get to participate in the process of looking through the budget if we're committing to something that is this big.
I'm not sure right now, we need, at this point, we need to set, a goal, and we have to look at a contingency.
And what happens if we decide to not do that goal?
That's okay.
Well, then you, okay,
No skip track.
yeah, then there's no skate park.
So,
Yeah, I can make everything.
Only stop, but
Just-
CSD might be 400,000 under, so I heard the grant will reimburse up to 80% for completion of the project, so you're looking at about 120,000.
But we still have to have the money before we break ground. Okay, so I don't wanna get sidetracked here. So, Mr. McElhenney, do you have anything more that you'd like to say?
Just to close up that piece.
Okay.
Any monies accepted from the federal government, the project has to be completed, even if they reimburse us the money. If we don't complete the project, we have to repay back the federal government, which comes out of general fund reserves. So, this park is a park forever in perpetuity, which means maintenance and costs and things like that. So the grant process is not very easy.
Yeah.
And it's very detailed in exactly the things that we have to do. So, the grant is not gonna reimburse anything if we run into problems. And if the construction stops, then reimbursements stop.
Yeah.
Perhaps we have to pay back money
Right.
if the project isn't completed.
Right.
So,
So I hope you understand, I'm just gonna say this as the president, I hope you understand that we have to look at what's legal for us. And it's not just, we have to make sure that, I mean, that's our number one job is to protect this community, CCSD and this community. And so we're gonna make decisions based on that. As much as we love you guys and we would love to have a skate park, that's not what this is about.
we do
This-
understand.
Okay, I'm so glad you do. Thank
We
you.
understand.
Okay, so do we have?
Anybody want to answer the question about pledges?
Well, I think we need to say that out loud about pledges.
Well, pledges it. That's it.
Yes,
Yeah, the MOU is very clear on that. It has to be money in hand.
Yeah.
With the CCSD.
Right.
Can't be pledges.
right,
With the CCND or the CCC?
CCSD.
because they,
Oh,
they,
CCSD has it, but, you know,
Right.
But it has to be money already donated. It Can't be pledges.
Can you just clarify, restate that, the acronyms, I think that.
Oh, okay, the community council holds the money.
Yes.
But it has to be transferred basically to the CCSD for the project to go forward. That's in all three iterations of the MOU ever since 2022.
Yeah. okay,
So, several months ago, I offered to make a motion that just,
I'm not ready for a moment.
Okay, just check it.
Okay,
Just check it.
anybody else?
I'd like to make a comment.
Yes,
How relevant this is to the decision that we're making today, I can't necessarily say. But three of the four people that are providing a mock bid, Monty Soto and Civil Design Studio, as well as Coastline Grading and Chavez Construction, are basically local people raising families. There's a lot of positive energy in this room here today, so we can all feel it.
Yeah.
My sense is with regard to these folks, and including the folks that were at the skate park location in December from Coastline and Chavez, they were there and you could sense in their heart how much they wanted to be of value to this community and being involved in one way or another. I know we're talking dollar figures here, it's the way of the world. But my sense is that people that live in this area would be as adaptable as possible. They're not here to lose money, but they're here as much to contribute to the community as anything else. And I feel as if that needs to be kept in mind when this is nothing against Canon. I mean, for all we know, since they're the large corporation that has done work, all over the country, that they could easily be the people that provide the best product. However, You understand what I just said with regard to local people and the passion that they have for this project. And I'd like to think, I realize it's just a matter of faith, but I would like to think that when we get close to raising the funds from Skate Cambria, and I have a feeling there's other resources out there that haven't revealed themselves, that maybe can get an arm twisted or so. I'd like to think that the closer we get to the raising of an amount that we pick here today, the more adaptable other people will become in assisting in meeting that amount. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's how I feel.
Yes, yes.
Momentum.
Okay, yes, Director Gray, did you have something more?
Well, I think, no, I think Mr. Vice President Thomas is gonna make a motion. Is that the?
Are we ready for a motion?
Is this motion gonna include the percentage of contingency?
Yes.
It's not really discussed very much how
Yeah.
much we want that to be.
Well, I
So
think-
if I could say one more thing, I realize I'm interrupting you.
No, it's okay.
I came up with, for what it's worth, since, I believe General Manager McElhaney said with the 10% contingency is $299,000.
Right.
And the 15% is $359. So I'm shooting for a middle ground of 12.5% and 329. Just to kind of be on the safe side, if that's even possible.
Yeah, we could, we don't have to do.
I mean, that's still a lot of money for Skate Cambria to have to raise, but since it doesn't appear as if going with 0% is practical and realistic in the state of the world today, that's a figure that I'm suggesting, for what it's worth. We're trying to make it, reach a compromise. here.
Yeah.
Just I think any actual bid we get is probably gonna have a contingency of at least 15%. Because that's the going rate, that's the minimum contingency for bids.
But that's a separate issue.
Well, it's very different.
I need to have you guys
Yeah.
not say
It's
anything,
not- it's-
okay?
The contingency, we are trying to settle on a contingency that protects us. Over, and we haven't discussed about how long this is gonna take, how long the fundraiser is gonna take. If it's
Right.
in a 6-month period, I think we have to protect ourselves from all sorts of, from inflation, from any number of things that happen. I think it should be, I'm okay with getting rid of the Canon estimate, though. Canon, you don't want to dismiss them too much because they know what they are experts in contracting. However, if we exclude that, I would go with 20% based on the other 3 estimates. And I think that would sufficiently protect us, I hope. But I don't think going below 20 that far out is fine.
Yeah, I just want to comment, the contingency is what a contractor adds to his or her highly refined estimates, not for inaccuracies in their estimates, but for things that are unknown and unknowable, the unpredictabilities. What we're doing here is taking estimates, which are 6 months old, and we know that inflation over the last 6 months has been 3 to 5%. Inflation is down. Things don't go there. So we are not looking at 20% inflation over the time that these estimates have been provided. We're providing, and this is not a contingency at all in any means of the word. We're providing a buffer because we have an uncertainty range. We don't know what we're going to see. And to me, the real key is that the contractors are watching. They know, and the ones that really care about this, they'll see that this is the target available, and it's almost, I'll put a bet down with any of you that we will get a bid at or below that number that we set here today. And so the higher we set that number, the more of our community's money we're forcing to be spent. So I don't really advocate the higher number. And knowing the energy in this room, as we've heard already, Director Dean asked the precise question. What if the bids come, what if I'm wrong? Okay, I lose that bet. Well, I'm gonna go to the next fundraiser because Ms. Amadei is gonna kick it into high gear like nothing we have seen yet. But the numbers will be lower than if we set a higher buffer.
I'm not so sure about that. But, I mean, yeah, I think,
I mean, just the way systems work.
okay, but I'm gonna say something,
Yeah.
because I think we need to go ahead and we need to set the gap and the contingency, or set the amount that we need to have from Skate Cambria in order to go out for RFP. That's really the bottom line, right? Plus the contingency. Now, there's a lot of, well, we hope this and we have to have faith in that, but you know what? Hope and faith is not a plan.
Mhm.
It doesn't always get things done, so we have to keep that in mind too, you know? And I can't recognize you. We're at a bad timing here. We're at a bad place to be able to legally recognize you.
We've had public comment.
We've had public comment, okay, already. So are we ready for a motion?
May I?
Okay, yes,
I move that we, as has been discussed, remove the canon estimate and establish a 10% contingency, AKA buffer, with the target being 1.13 million. $1,313,000 as the target level of funds needed prior to RFP.
okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay,
May I make a substitute motion or are we have to vote?
you want to amend? Well, we can, would you offer an amendment?
Offer an amendment, yes.
Is that okay with you?
All right, so I have to vote on, second and voted on. I'd amend the motion to add that, yes, we exclude the canon estimate, but we go with a 20% contingency with a number of 454,000 for the gap, and we set a 6-month deadline for the fundraising. Is there a second? That's my motion, my amendment.
Are you okay with that, Mr. Second? Are you okay with that amendment?
Not with the 20%.
Okay. So shall we vote on that motion?
Can we make another motion?
Sure, go ahead.
Can we compromise? Director Thomas says 10. Director Gray says 20. What about 15?
Yeah. Are you okay with that amendment?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Well. Okay, so let's vote on the initial motion. And you didn't put a timeline. So did you want to add a timeline?
And Director Dean suggested that we ask Ms. Amadei as regional manager with Skate Cambria. Director Gray has suggested 6 months. Is 6 months about right?
Yeah.
Yes, you may.
It is standard practice in fundraising and infrastructures to use pledges, especially on contingencies. So my question to the board is, I'll be happy to stand. My question to the board is, if we're collecting cash and handing you over cash.
No, you're handing it to the
Or to
council.
the council, how is the money that's not used returned? In other words, my point is, why would you not take pledges, which is helpful for us on the fundraising front, and use those pledges for contingency purpose? In other words, part cash, happy to do that, and part pledge on the contingency. We can elevate on pledge contingency a whole lot easier because individuals of those levels of giving don't want to just hand over cash when they're earning interest on that cash. So we're asking for some considerations in how the money is earned. Does that make sense?
Well, kind of just
Yes.
comment on that, yeah.
Yes.
I think how pledges would work in this case is if there is a 6-month deadline. The,
Director Gray, with all due respect.
Yeah.
Why would pledges not be appropriate?
well, first, first of all, it's our agreement.
Yeah, it's not
It's
part of
it's
the
cash
MOU.
agreement. Also though, pledges, yeah, I would understand that you have pledges for a fund drive. But at some point, this is the point of the deadline. There's a point at which you get the pledges cashed in. If you have enough pledges, at that point, you can cash them in, you'll have the cash. You know, that they will pay them. If the pledge drive fails, to reach the level that you're comfortable with, to come up with the cash, then the pledge drive has failed. But we're not gonna we can't take pledges at the CCSD, in place of cash. We just can't.
Okay, so the motion, would you restate the motion?
The motion is to set the target level, at the average of the, civil design studio, coastline grading, and Chavez construction estimates, and plus the 10%
Well,
contingency.
okay, so what is that amount?
The average of those three is 1.193. Or, I'm sorry, 1.194 million
Okay,
with a 10% contingency,
Okay.
which brings the fundraising total to $1,313,000 with a 6-month time frame.
no, it brings it to 299,000.
Oh, that would be the gap, but the fundraising target would be $1,313,000.
Well,
The general manager is not a
I can confirm that based on the average of the estimates.
Yeah.
If we're gonna go down to the penny, it would be $1,313,174.08. Sure, we could knock up 8 cents.
yeah, I mean, we can, yeah,
with a 6-month time frame.
6 months time frame, which is a 10% contingency. Right?
Right.
Okay, is that something that you can second again?
I can second again.
Okay. All right, let's call for a vote.
Vice President Thomas,
Oh, I go first. Yes, aye.
Director Farmer,
Aye.
Director Dean.
I think it should be just a little bit higher, so I'm gonna say no.
Director Gray,
No.
President Scott.
No. Okay, do I have another motion?
Director Dean.
I would like to make a motion.
Thank you, Director
Okay.
Davis.
So Director Thomas proposed 10%, Director Gray proposed 20%, and you said 10%, right?
Yes,
Okay, how about either 12.5 or 15?
But,
15.
Director Farmer, 15, just at 12.5.
Oh, 15.
Yeah, I suggested 12.5.
He suggested 12.5. What, 12.5 would be what, 300?
229, yeah.
yeah,
No. What would 15 be?
15% contingency, $358,585.
no, a 12.5%.
12.5% is
I was going to ask for 15.
Okay,
But it's,
Director Gray asked me for 50.
but we haven't heard 12.5. What would the target be at 12.5?
We're gonna have to work on that.
It's 329.
Again, we're asking for the target. Yeah.
And someone can do that on a calculator.
Well, right now, skate camp is a little over $1 million, right?
no,
I know.
The net,
Isn't that, yeah,
including the grant.
including the
Including the
CCS.
and the CCS.
And we're suggesting that ultimately the figure become $1,300,000 was just voted down.
Right. So we want to add another 2.5% to that.
Well, it goes from 299 to 329. So
Again,
that
that's
would
a gap.
No,
That's the gap.
359.
We're asking about the target total.
I was just giving it to you at 12.5%.
You're so good.
So it would be basically 1,344, I believe.
329,000.
Yeah, no, but what's the total?
Total,
figuring it out.
total target to be raised, if my math is correct, $1,365,402.60.
365, so that's,
Interesting, that's not halfway between 1313
not.
and 1372. It would look like it would be 1344.
yeah.
1343.
I took the 0% contingency and timed it by 12.5%, took that number, added it to the 193, and that's the number I got. But it's always good to have your finance manager back you up.
Yep.
I think it turns out 1343.
Certainly makes sense.
That makes sense. Actually makes sense.
Yeah.
Does make sense. Except it's not that.
President Scott, should I take another try? Or do you want
I don't
to-
have my computer yet, so wait, I don't
Course
have
of
my
action.
typing ability to do. Yeah.
Well, I want to get the right number.
I come up with $1,343,328.45.
Right.
1343.
1343.
Can we take a break?
Yes, well,
Just a 5-minute break so she can not have so much pressure on me.
oh,
The agenda title said 10, 15, or 20, so we were not prepared to have.
right, right. Yeah, it's okay. We're breathing. It's really okay.
Can we request a break, please? Just,
Sure, but
thank you.
nothing's gonna change if we request a break. Yeah. Yeah. 1,343,000.
No, don't hold it.
And then the lights on.
So confirming $1,343, $18.94.
Yep,
Confirmed.
yes, great. Okay. So go ahead, Director. Let's try it again.
I think that we tried 12.5%.
You have to say it out loud, really loud.
Really loud?
Say it. I move.
I move that we apply a 12.5% contingency to the average of three of the estimates excluding Canon Engineering.
Within,
Pardon me?
within how long?
I thought we were gonna ask them how long it would take.
6 months. Is that okay, or?
6 months, okay?
I can't even understand what you guys are saying as far as the number.
We don't-
Somebody in the public.
Okay.
Understand, it's not clear.
Okay, say it real loud.
Okay, so without a contingency, it's 0%, it's 1.193794. If we add 12.5%, it becomes 1.34332895, which makes the gap $329,000. And we have excluded Canon Engineering's estimate, and we are requesting 6 months if Skate Cambria thinks they can meet 6 months.
Okay, is the gap at 329 your entire gap, or are you also taking the cash on hand into this equation?
We've already included cash on hand, I think.
It's 329 more,
It's more,
With the gap and the contingency.
right?
yes. The total gap including the contingency.
Right.
Sorry, that wasn't clear to us. We were trying to hear it.
That's why we're trying to clear it up for you.
So the question you're asking is 6 months, something that's to be achieved. And so the answer I'm going to give is, and again, with all due respect to Mr. Gray, pledges are, we're not clear on this whole failure of pledge campaign. First of all, pledge campaigns aren't a failure. They're very successful in the sense that donors at this level, when they give this kind of cash, are happy to give it knowing that it's there in an MOU with guaranteed funds. You can verify their funding, that they're legitimate. But they're not gonna wanna hand it over unless they need to hand it over. And you're basing this 329 heavily on contingency. So allow us to put the pledge into an MOU and then say, go out to bid. And if the money is needed, that pledge is gonna come forward.
Okay, this is how it's gonna be, this is how it would be, and that is that we're looking at 6 months and you have pledges. And prior to our going for RFP, those pledges need to be cashed. Because we can't go to RFP unless we have that in the bank.
In that MOU, is there, if that contingencies don't happen, is that money gonna be given back to us?
We don't have the money. The council has the money.
Which is where we prefer to have it, yes.
Right. So we don't, that will be between you and Mr. Clark.
I don't see us getting to the point of having to give the money back, because I have confidence that they can raise it.
Yeah, I mean,
And we want the skate park built.
yep.
Well, I hope they give money back because it comes in cheaper, but, and that's what we'll have.
That's right.
We come in
That's right.
cheaper.
No, I know.
I mean, if you're not willing to make that commitment,
That's
that,
a valid question though for us to ask that.
what?
If we're gonna go raise that amount of money and it's there, because earlier you did say that money has to be in the bank for the.
In 6 months,
Right.
yeah.
If that money is not spent, is that written into our MOU?
We don't spend it,
They want to verify the
Meeting
funding
council.
cash.
right?
Instead of cash and
Right,
pledge.
right.
No way on earth we're gonna spend more than we have to
No.
on this project.
No,
But
Yeah.
see, we're committing to something with you that, I don't know how that works.
yeah, we need to time out. Okay,
So I think we should set the 6
yeah,
months.
we should just do it.
We're talking about what we need to have to go to RFP.
Right.
We'll have the positive number in RFP.
Right.
We'll know if you've raised too much or
Right.
not enough
Right.
at that point,
All right.
correct?
Yeah,
Yes.
so restate the motion and then we're gonna vote. If somebody seconds it.
Okay. The whole thing?
Yep.
Okay. I move that on the average of the three estimates excluding Canon Engineering, which right now is $1,193,794, we apply a 12.5% contingency, which comes to a total for the project of what we're asking for to be met, $1,343,328.95, which means the gap at this point would be $329,000. And we are asking for 6 months to come back with it. Let us know they've got the money.
I'll second that.
Okay. All right, let's vote.
Director Dean, Vice President Thomas,
Did you?
Who seconded it? He seconded it.
She said that.
Geraldine, did I hear? Oh, okay, I didn't hear the aye.
Director Gray,
No.
Director Farmer,
Aye.
President Scott.
Aye. Okay. So if you want to applaud now, you can. Say that if it wants to donate, we have a donation can right there. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Oh, wait a minute. I think that was a good person.